The stream is ready to be started, and it should be on now. Okay, so connection is excellent as it says, so should be okay. Hello everyone. Today we are going to continue talking about the main data types we have in C#. So we hopefully will finish the presentation today, and then in Discord I also shared the practical tasks, practical activities we will use most likely today and definitely next week as well. Yeah, so you can use this zip file, extract it, and you'll see the activities there. We'll go through them a little bit later, so just you can know that you can find them here. And yeah, also as we just discussed in chat, we can use the same link every time. Yeah, previously I created the meeting every time, but I think we can use the same link. So I copy pasted it in the welcome and rules. So since we have the main links here, and I hope that will be fine. And yeah, also I guess I can put the link to the GitHub repository, so you can also access it from here. And in addition, I also pinned the link to the meeting here as well. Okay, so let me then quickly copy paste the link of the repository so everyone can see it there and can easily find. Okay, so now it's also under the welcome and rules. Okay, so from the organizational point of view, I guess now everything should be fine. If you have any questions, let me know. If no, then we can continue. So yesterday we were talking about the data types. We started talking about what kind of data types we can use in C#, and yeah, then we finished with the value data types. Remember that we have value data types and reference data types. So reference data types are more complex. They are combined using the multiple elements and different multiple elements, and the key point is that they have the reference, so they are not stored as the value, as the linear value, yeah, we can name it, but they are stored as the reference. And yeah, so we start talking about the primitive data types, value data types, and then yeah, so for the floating point types, we have float and double. The main difference is the range that they have, and of course the size. If we use double, then it takes more size, more memory. So just in case we want to optimize our program, then we can use the smaller the variable with the smaller size. So then yeah, there's that small type, the one we defined with m, so the value is defined with m at the end, then it means that this is that small type. Again, it has different range comparing to the float and double, yeah, so please be aware of it if you use it. Then the Boolean type, true or false, and true or false, these are exact values, again, as I mentioned, not as it is in C or C++, where we can use one as true and all as false. In C#, so we can only use these two values, and we don't have 1 or 0. These are exact values to be used then. And then the character type, so these are the characters. Basically, we can check and use all the characters from the table. Yeah, you can simply type in the internet 16-bit Unicode characters, and then if you type them you see them displayed on your screen. Then also there's the structure type, which looks and works in quite similar way as the objects work, but comparing to the objects, structures are not reference data types. They are value data types, and the idea is that these are the data types with the multiple components and multiple attributes. Not only the value. So it means that like you have the set of variables inside, and you simply combine them in one place, and you use it as place as the type. So, and this is how it's called, structure. And then one more type is a num, where you can define multiple values and then assign the corresponding value to them, or you can skip assigning the value. Then you can just simply define as red, blue, green, yellow, and the key thing is that you can use them as the constant. So what's the difference? The difference is that if you have shape red, then it means that this is the exact value you can use, and this will, like if you use it everywhere in your code, then you will have this particular value. Because otherwise, again, why do we use constants? We'll talk about constants a little bit later, and nums are, I would say, they are quite similar to the constants. So we'll later on talk about constants, and I will explain you why do we need the constants in programming. So, and one more thing, that we have nullable types. So it means that these are the value types that can be assigned to the value of null. So null means actually nothing. It's not like 0 for numbers, or space, or empty space, or simply no space as for characters or strings. This means actually there is no value. Yeah. And mostly used it is mostly used for the reference data types. However, it can also be used for the value types, and then to be able to define nullable type, we can use such syntax any value type, question mark, then the variable name, and then we can assign null to this particular variable. Why do we need it? In some scenarios it may be needed, since we don't want to have, let's say, the value 0. Yeah, so instead of 0 we want to use null to point out to the program that the value is not assigned to the variable. Yeah, so here we can see the example. Yeah, we define the variable as null, and then we have the possibility to check if it has or it has no value. Yeah. So if it has value, then has value parameter will return true, otherwise it returns false. Yeah, so, and this is how it looks like. Okay, do you have any questions? Okay, then we can proceed with the reference data types. So the reference data types, the key difference is comparing to the value data types, then the reference data types are stored as the reference. So it means that we have the variable. Yeah, so just imagine, again, it'll be the box or something similar. Then we don't put the exact value of the object there, but we put the reference, which is the address to the memory, which points us to this particular object where it is located in the memory. So the easiest example would be the arrays. The arrays are reference data types. Yeah. And when we create the array, basically what happens, we have the space located in the memory, and then the reference to this array actually points us to this actually points us to the first element. So that's why arrays start at 0, because like we have the pointer to the array, and the pointer would be to the beginning of this array. So it simply means that to access the first element, we actually provide the position of this element, and position is it starts at 0, and that's why like the start plus 0, that would be the position. Then for the second element, that would be start plus 1, then we are positioned on the second element, and so on. Okay? That's why the array starts at 0. And for all the data types, or for all the reference data types, as I said, we simply store the reference to the memory. Yeah? So again, like for example, the objects may have the attributes and similar parameters stored under them. And the thing is that when you have the variable which stores the object, then the variable does not store the values of this object. If the object has the attributes, then yeah, so it is stored under the object, under the reference, but the attributes, the values of these attributes are not stored under the variable. And the variable stores only the reference, the address to the memory, which points to the place in the memory where this object, the parameters of this object are located. Yeah, and then so it means that we can define in C# we can split them into two types, into two groups, so that would be the user-defined or complex types defined by system library. So these can be the classes, the interfaces, delegates, and the arrays. They all are reference types. Yeah, actually, there is also one thing. When we say the data types for the reference data types, we actually we can not really say that they are the types of the reference. So yeah, that may be a little bit complicated, but reference data types and the type of the reference is not the same thing, because so when we talk about reference data types, we actually talk about the variables, how we can define, and they can be defined as classes, interfaces, delegates, arrays, object strings, and so on. But on the other hand, we may have the values stored as the values, the objects, which are stored under the reference of the values, and they may not be, for example, the interfaces. We cannot create the object which has the type, which is interface. That's for sure. Yeah, cannot do it. We cannot create the object which has the type like abstract class. It cannot also be. So the objects can be the arrays. It can be the classes. The classes which are not abstract classes. So yeah, in this case we need to distinguish these two terms. Yeah, the reference data types. So it means that this is particular data type. We define how we define the variables, and the type of the reference variables may not be the same as the type of the reference variable. And so, for example, the casting. And so, for my course, we discussed the casting. I'm not sure if the other course discussed. Have you discussed the data type casting? So those who
I don't remember, at least.
Okay.
We did cast a little bit, but
Okay. Yeah, that's. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
casting, not parsing something where was.
yeah, but that's fine. Yeah, we'll go through this again during this course. Don't worry. Because this is the key part of the object-oriented programming. And yeah, actually the data types, the primitive data types, not reference data types, they can also be casted. But in fact, when we talk about the casting for the reference data types and non-reference data types, then actually the meaning and the properties of these two castings are really different. I mean, they're opposite, I would say. But we'll talk about the casting a little bit later. So yeah, then about the declaration of the variables, we provide the type, or if we have the source value, which can be directly provided or provided from the variable, then we can use VAR instead. So basically the idea is that we want to provide, as I said yesterday, we want to provide the information to the compiler, what the type should be assigned to the particular variable. I mean, in this case, we say it's integer, so compiler does understand that this is integer. In this case, we can also use VAR, so the compiler then can get the data type from the value we have on the right side. Okay? So in both cases, compiler will understand what do we want to achieve. So in case we don't have the value on the right side, then we can not use VAR, because in this case we do not provide the information to the compiler what kind of the variable should I want to create. So please make sure that compiler does understand what do you want from it, which makes sense. And for the reference data types, for the reference data types we need to create the object, or we need to use the existing object. So for example, in this case, when we provide the string, strings are the objects, they are stored as the arrays of the characters. Yeah, so that's why the strings are not mutable, since you know that for the arrays we define the size of the array, then we cannot change the size, right? So, and the same is for the string, since the string is stored as the array of the characters, then we have the array with the characters, and then we cannot change the size. In addition, for the strings, we cannot also change the values of these characters. So yeah, in this case, we have this like static constant object, what we provide to the variable. In general, for the other reference data types, to create the object, we need to then call the constructor, need to use the operator new. So then basically this operation new, it simply calls the constructor, and then the constructor in fact it returns the reference of the new object, and then it is passed to the variable. So in this case, of course, yes, we can use new. There are some specifications, so we will maybe talk about them in more details in topic of object-oriented programming, but just for now, there may be some exceptions. For example, the constructor may be defined as private or protected. Then in that cases, we have the limitations where we can actually use this new operator. Yeah, if the constructor of the class is defined as private or protected, then it means that we can use this new operator only inside the class or from the subclass of the class. And in such cases, we most likely the factory, so-called factory method will be used. That is usually called get instance or similar, and in that case, the factory method will be used. But then this is more specific case. I mean, at the end of the day, at some point, the operator you should always be called. And yeah, so you can also check what are the default values for the variables. Yeah, so for numerical variables, default values are zeros. For character, it's empty. Then for boolean, it's false. For num, it's also 0, and for all the reference types, the default value is null. Okay, do you have maybe any questions?
Hi, I have a question. I little bit didn't understood this dance is idea of this null data type. I think I understood that null data type can be, for example, a random number, and I just a little bit didn't understand how we why I need to use it. Maybe you can small example.
You mean null data type or null value?
I mean.
You mean this one?
I think you had a slide about it.
This one, right?
Yes, yes,
Oh.
yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, basically, what are the... Yeah, maybe I can copy paste this example, then we can... Or maybe I will create a new... Okay, maybe create a new project for today. Yeah, it's actually not used so often, but it may be used in some cases. Go to the... Maybe I'll create the new solution for the current session against F5. So again, the key idea is that we want to deal with the variable without providing the actual empty value for this, because again, as I said, by default, for example, integer data types, they have the default value, which is 0. Yeah, so let's say that if we remove this question mark, then we comment out, then the only way how we can use this variable is that we need to assign the value to it. But for example, let's say that it describes the age, for example. So you can imagine one quick example. Let's say that this is the age. Yeah, so let's say that we are discussing the age. In some scenarios, so for example, I currently work on one project, which is quite, I would say, popular fashion brand in the world. I guess that is one of the most popular fashion brands, fashion companies in the world. I guess I'm not allowed to tell the name of this company, but yeah, the idea is that they have application. For example, they have the application where there's the information about the customers. Yeah, so there are the customers. Not we, but the agents, the managers, the agents, they create these customers in the application and they provide some kind of information. And so for some of them, for some of the customers, they don't want to tell their age. Yeah, so for example, the age or the year of the birth, for example. And in such cases, of course, we cannot say that their age is 0, yeah, because technically that's not correct. But for example, in such case, the age can be simply undefined. Yeah? And to allow such a scenario where the age is undefined, when it's not null, and we can store this variable, then, for example, in this case, the age will not be provided and it can be null, for example. Yeah. So, okay, so again, in this case, if we run it, because I have the wrong number of the brackets. Fix this. Yeah, I guess we missed one bracket. But yeah, it's one bracket. So yeah, technically means that we allow the value tag to store undefined value. And again, as I said, one of the examples may be the age, because some customers do not want to reveal it. So we can see, okay, so there's the exception. Let me maybe write the exception if there is such, right? 1e get message, I guess. Message. Okay, let's close the window. Okay, the window is not closed. Never mind. Okay, let's run again. Yeah. So I can see that we have the exception in this case, that if we want to actually achieve get the value, if we try to get the value from the variable which is assigned as null, then in this case we get the exception, valid operation exception, and there is such exception. So it basically means that we can have the variable which we define, but it can store undefined value, null value. There may be multiple scenarios, but again, technically, of course, we can find the ways how we don't use it, so that will be fine as well. But so in some scenarios, it may be used. Yeah, because in programming there are, in fact, in programming there are lots of different features and properties which maybe we can skip using them, but in some cases we can use them just to make our program maybe more understandable. So that would be
Thank you.
the potential way of usage. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't use it so often, but okay, can be used. Why not? Okay, so then we can move on with the variable declaration. So how it basically works, in case we define the variable age, then what happens, it allocates the space to the memory. So the same as here, but it assigns the value to this particular variable. Yeah, so that is how it defined, and the reference data type idea is that the variable is defined. So when the variable is defined, then it actually has only the place for the variable. So it also allocates the memory for it, but so it just simply has initially it has the value null, so no value. But when the object is assigned, the reference of the object is assigned to the reference data type, the reference variable. Then it allocates, not allocates, but it stores then the reference to the memory where this particular object is stored. Yeah. So yeah, actually, in that case, there's the heap and the stack. So there are two types of memory: heap memory and stack memory. So we will maybe talk about them when we talk about the methods. So the idea is that the stack, the elements located in the stack memory, they are, so again, remember what the stack is. So it's like the sequence of the executable components, and usually they are the methods. And so when the method, during the execution of the particular method, we have this stack memory allocated to this particular method. And when the method is executed, and then we go out of the method, then all the elements are actually then they are removed from the memory. So basically, the memory of that particular stack is destroyed. And the heap memory is the memory which is actually allocated during the execution of the whole program, from the beginning till the end. But yeah, we'll talk about them a little bit later. So then the next one is the constants. So I wanted to discuss this when we talk about the nums. So yeah, the constants may be for me, as for when I was the beginner, that was a little bit not really clear. Why do I actually need the constants? I can simply use the variables and that will be enough for me. Yeah, that's true, and especially for me as for a mathematician, that was quite obvious thing. Yeah, why can't we just simply use the variables when we can? Yeah, so why do we need to use the constants? And actually, for the constants, there is one huge advantage. And the advantage is that they are, for example, let's say that you have your application, your software. Yeah, you develop your software, and inside your software there are some, let's say, the texts. Yeah, the texts like maybe texts which define the color red, blue, green, and so on. And so, sorry, not the texts, but let's say the numbers. Yeah, the numbers which are assigned to any particular color. The color may be red. For example, let's say that red has the value 10, assigned value 10. Then the green has the value assigned 20, and so on and so on. So you have your application. You have these values which are used in multiple components of your program, of your application. Then at some point you have, not sure why, but you have the need to change the value assigned to the red from 10 to, let's say, for example, 11. So, and what does it mean? It means that you need to, like, if you don't have the constants, then it means that you need to change it in like all the places in your program. You need to search for it, you need to change, and then you need to do the adjustments in many different places in your program. Of course, that's not efficient. Yeah. But if you use the constants, then you can simply change the value assigned to the constant, and then it will be changed in all of the places where it is used. This is the main usage for the constants. Instead of hard coding the values, we can define them as the constants and then use the constants. More effective way, especially when something is changed. And what's the difference between the constants and the variables? So again, the constant cannot be changed. It needs to be initialized. Yeah, we cannot simply store the constant without the value assigned. So it should have the value, and it cannot be changed after that. Yeah, after it's assigned, we can't change it. Yeah. And so basically again, why we use them instead of the variables. So again, to not be able to change, and we point out to those who use our program, those who actually develop inside our program, so other developers, we point out to the developer that this particular value should not be changed, because otherwise, if you don't use the constants, you use them as simple variables, then the thing is that they can be accidentally changed by other developers or by you. Why not? Then yeah, it may trigger the mistake and yeah, may trigger some issues. So it's more safe, it's safer, and it's easier to be than managed. Okay. So do you have any questions? Okay. If not, let's move on. Then the scope of the variable again. As I said you yesterday, we have the blocks of the code, and they are multiple purposes of the blocks. Of course, we need to define the section of the code, like if it's the class, the method, or something similar, then or definition of any object, then we need to point out where is the beginning and where is the end of this particular block of code. And in addition, there may be the variables stored inside which have their scope. And normally, we cannot access the inner variables from the outer code. And for example, we have the variable n defined in the inner code, and then we cannot access it from outside this section, because it is defined inside, so from outside the section it will not be visible. On the other hand, when we have the inner section, then the inner section will have the access to the variables defined in the outer section. So this is about the scope of variable. That's why we have such terms like local variables, or say global variables, or you may hear some similar terms. The idea is that they simply define the scope of the visibility of the particular variable. So, do you have any questions? Okay. If not, then we have boxing and unboxing. So if the data type. So boxing is the data type conversion technique that is used implicitly to convert value type to an object or a reference type. So for example, we have, let's say, the moment. Oh. I'm a bit confused here. So yeah, actually, this is quite maybe not strange example, but the idea is that in that case we place. This is, I would say, yeah, maybe the term boxing and unboxing is not quite widely used, but I would say this is quite similar to. This is the upcasting, yes. So we actually do the upcasting, and then we do the downcasting. But okay, maybe this is maybe more about object-oriented programming. Yeah. So the key idea from here is that we can actually hide the value under some let's say more general variable, and then unhide it under more specific data type, like here we have, we store it under the object. In fact, we store integer under object type, and then we unsign it, we unbox it under the we unbox it to the integer type. So let's have a quick look on this. Let me comment out this code. While the comments, sorry, I just forgot the shortcut in Visual Studio for the comment. One moment, what's the shortcut? Quickly, and it's Control K plus C.
Yeah.
Yeah, Control K plus C. Okay, thank you. Because I mean, I normally use Control slash or Control comma. They're different. Yeah, they're different. Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Yes, I accidentally commented like, yeah, because I mean, in different IDs, I use like 5 IDs normally, and they're always different shortcuts for code formatting and also for the comments, and that's why sometimes I mix them up. Yeah, sorry, but okay, then let's then let me paste this example. So let's see the output. Yeah, in fact, the output should be they should be different. Because in this case, the idea is that x is integer, it's not the reference type. Yes, so in this case, x does not work as the reference type, and that's why we can use this boxing, and in this case, actually object and x will have different places in the memory, and that's why they will have different values. What happens here? The second example here, we have the variable, and the variable defined as object. Then we assign this x, and then we create a new variable, and then in both cases, of course, again we have, in this case, we'll have 3 different variables. And so there's difference for the value types compared to the reference type. For the reference types, we'll have actually 1 object in all these cases. But okay, maybe that will be the next topic. The idea here is that we can simply hide anything under the object data type and then get it back using the casting. In case the casting will not work, then you will get the casting error. Okay, do you have any questions? Yeah, the term boxing and unboxing is maybe a little bit not really precise, but the idea is quite simple. Because again, the object can be used for any value type. Oh, and then there is, I would say, maybe one of the most interesting parts. These are the generic types. So what's the point for the generic types? Actually, generic types is the approach which can be used in C# and also in other languages. So the idea is that we may have we may have the class. We can define the class which has the template. So in this case, we have the template type assigned to it. Sometimes it can also be the key type or similar ideas, but the fact is that it is the type. Yeah, we can do some adjustments. For example, we can say that this type should extend some specific class, or it should implement some specific class or interface or something like that. And then we can use this particular type inside the code. But what's the point? The point is that like, what's the difference? The key question may be what's the difference between the generic types and the object as the type. The difference is that for the object, we cannot really say that the object will always be the same type, yeah, because the object can store, variable can store any possible data types. Yeah, as we see here, it can store integer, it can also store string, any other, basically all the possible objects we want to define. And then it means that if we have like object1, we can define object2, then in fact they may have two different types. So for example, let's say I can do the same here. I can define object2 and then assign text here. So in this case, I have object here, but these two variables have two different types. Yeah, so that is possible. That is possible, but what do we want to, let's say, what do we want to, what can we do to achieve the situation when we have the type which is unknown type, as in this case, because object, it's the parent type for all the types, but it means that we usually store some subtype of this the object type. Yeah, so things that we can restore just any type we have, and yeah, so we want to achieve the situation when the type still remains unknown, but the type should then be the same for several variables we use inside our program. Yeah, so like, let's say we want to achieve the situation when we have unknown type, but object1 and object2 will both have the same type. So to achieve this, we can use the generic type. So it simply means that we point out that this will be the type, but the type will, so it means that we have this type t. That means that everywhere where this type t is used inside the program, inside this particular class, in all these places, type t will be the same. Yeah. So like, maybe paste this class. So let me define it here, and then let me directly paste the example from here. Oh, so here, here. Okay, so let's say we have the getter setter here. What else we can do? Let's just simply let's just simply say that we have some kind of the public wait, so it can be display me or something, and then it will a moment. Or maybe let's see, let's bounce the value from here, and then Of course, this may be not the most interesting example, but what I want to point out, that in all the places where this type T is used inside the code, it will be the same. Yeah, so T, so like if we say that T is string, that it will be string here, and it will also be string here. Yeah, if we say that T is integer, then T will be integer here, and T will be integer here as well. If we say that T is character, then T will be character here, and T will be character here as well. And basically, we say it here. Yeah, so in this particular case, we say that T will be integer. So it means that when we define the variable and we create the object, in this case, we say that for this particular variable, for this particular object, T will be integer and nothing else. Yeah. So in this case, we point out that T is integer, T is not string, T is not character, T is not anything else. T is and will be integer for this object and this variable. And then in this case, we say that for this particular variable, for this particular object, which is created here, T will be string. So again, why do we need it? We can, so in this simple case, we simply escape using the object, because again, as you know, we can use object type. An object type would be acceptable, but the difference is that object type can have different object variables can have different in the values with different types assigned to them, and sometimes it may not be acceptable. Usually what we do, we say that T has some parameters. For example, we say that T implements hold on a moment, so a moment, just one quick hold on, yeah. 1 moment. Yeah, we can have the constraints here. Yeah, sorry. First, we need to use where at the end. And here we can also say that, let's say T is say is we can comparable. Yeah. Comparable, and let's say it is comparable to T. Yes, we can do this. Yeah. So it simply means that T is the type what we can compare. For example, what we can compare, we can compare the integers, we can compare all the numbers, we can say which number is smaller, which number is larger, which numbers are the same. Yeah. So we can compare, we can sort them in some kind of way. Same as for strings, we can compare the strings by characters. Yeah, like A is larger than A is smaller than B, A is smaller than C, and so on. So we can compare the strings. We can define our comparison by ourselves. We cannot compare such things like, let's say, the genders. Yeah, which gender is smaller, which gender is larger. We cannot compare colors, for example. Yeah, we can assign, for example, some values and then compare, but yeah, there are some types which are uncomparable. Yeah, also the objects, we cannot compare which computer is bigger, which is smaller. Yeah, so any kind of objects we cannot compare, but for some data types we define that they are comparable. And what does it mean? It means that, like in this case, when I say that T is comparable, it means that I can compare it. And for example, I say, for example, I have the method is greater than I assign type t. For example, let's say it's greater than, and then I return this compare. Also, not compare. Yeah, it's greater than. Yeah, it's greater than t. Yeah, so then it returns true or false. So what's the problem? Why t is not the val? Yeah, sorry. Val, of course. T is the type. Val is the variable. So now it's fine. So in this case, I assign the parameter, not the parameter, the characteristic for this particular t type. We can't do this for object. Yeah. So we put some limitations. We can also say that t is some kind of class, t is some kind of interface, or whatever it is. We can do this. And in this case, yeah, of course, we can use t as integer, since we can compare integers. We can use t as string, but we cannot use, let's say, we cannot use t as program. Yeah. And that will not be correct, because program is not comparable. Yeah. Program, this particular class object, I mean the object which is created, which is typed as program, it is not comparable. That's why program cannot be used as the type in this case. But if we implement the method comparable, yeah, we need to implement, yeah, it asks us to, yeah, we need to implement comparable. Then yeah, we can implement comparable methods. Yeah, maybe I want to do it now, and then program can be used. But since we do not define it here, then the program cannot be used as the type t, since t should be comparable. Okay, so do you have any questions about this?
When it's comparing, it's casting to integer to compare?
No, it never casts anything.
How do you know by which metric will it compare? For example, string, it will take like count, or
No,
how do you know how it will compare?
For the strings, it is generic implementation, which is, I would say, it is the same in all the programming languages where we have the strings. So it simply compares like normally. Let's say that if we have the string something like this, then it will obviously be less than this. Yeah. So since A's are smaller than B's. Yeah, so basically the idea is that it has the alphabetical order. Yeah, so basically the comparison happens in alphabetical order. So it's just usually it simply checks the characters one by one. Yeah, so it's like you sort the texts everywhere. So I guess in Excel that would be the same. So if we open Excel, then we type, or maybe I can use your names. Yeah, I will check the task a little bit later. But for example, I can sort by name. So let's say I go to the data, I use sort, I can sort by your first name. Yeah, so you can see that the name, your names are sorted, you are sorted by names. And so in this case, we see that, for example, Elena is, I mean, from the comparison perspective, this the name, this text, the string is smaller than Anna, then Anna, the text Anna is smaller than Anita, and so on. Yeah, so it's basically the alphabetical order, sort by character, and every time we can sort anything, then it means that we can compare two elements. Yeah, so that makes sense. If you can compare something, you can sort this in ascending or descending order. So the same as with the strings. You can compare the strings that way, in the same way as you sort them. And so is it clear or not clear?
I guess I would probably Google if I would need to use it. It's just like you can compare many things. Like if string is an array of characters, you could compare by length or something. It's just it always takes the first letter and takes it alphabetically.
For the string, it always takes alphabetically, but you can define your own type. Yeah, you can define your own type, and then you can. Yeah, for example, right here, I have the type program. I say that it is comparable, and then I need to implement some methods here. So define compare to. Yeah, I need to implement the method compare to. So let me implement the method compare to. It should be public. Oh, I guess yeah. I need to
It's the where, I think.
in this case, one moment. So I can compare to program. Yeah, I can use where as well. Yeah. No, where I need where in T. In this case, I don't have where, and so yeah, so I can use the method compare to. Compare. What's it? That is integer, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it asks me to implement compare to. Yeah, compare to program. To program, say p, and then I can return $7, for example. So basically the idea is if I define -1 or if I return negative number, then I say that the current object is smaller than the one provided here. If I return 1, that means that the current object is greater than p, and if I return 0, that means that the objects are equal, they are the same. In this case, I have nothing really to compare yet. That's why the comparison is not does not make sense. But the idea is that you can define this comparison by yourself. So you define the logic how you compare two different objects. So for the strings, they are defined by default. But for your own types, like in this case, I have the type program. Then I have the type program. Then I can define for my type. I can define this logic by myself. But we will take a look on it a little bit later, where we actually need this when we talk about the interfaces and maybe collections, where we need to use the sorting. In this case, I don't really. But again, for the objects which implement the class in the interface comparable, for this that's the interface. Yeah, that's the interface like comparable. For these objects, we can compare them. Yes, so every object which implements this interface, it can be comparable. So, is it more clear? Any questions? Okay, then maybe let's have 10 minutes break now. So during the break, you can also write the questions, and then we can maybe discuss them after the break. So let's then meet in 10 minutes. So I think we can continue. So if there are no questions, we can move on. So yeah, for generic data types, the key thing is that we want to point out that there is one unknown type which should be the same everywhere where it's defined. And it is checked by compiler, so it means that if we have some parameter defined, not parameter, if we pass some value to this type T, then it, like in this case, for this particular object, it cannot be anything else but integer, and for this object, it cannot be something which is not string. So that makes sense. Okay, so then the next section is about the operators. So for the operators, we can have so-called unary operators, which can increment. For example, we have the incrementer, pre-increment and post-increment, and the same is for the decrement. So it means that we add 1. Yeah, if it's the increment, though, then we add this operation adds 1 to the numerical type, and it adds -1 if it's decrement, which makes sense. And the difference between pre-increment and post-increment is that like if we use it inside the command, like in this case we have the command write 1, so we pass the value to this command, and if we use prefix increment, then we implement so it executes this incrementation operation before it is passed to the method. And if we have postfix increment, then it means that firstly the initial value is passed to the method, and then after that this incrementing is executed. Just the matter of sequence and nothing else. So then we have the arithmetical operations, which can be plus, minus, multiplication, division, and modulo. So to add something, for numerical types, that would be the sum of two values, and for the strings, it will be the concatenation. So yeah, so from the mathematical point of view, it is quite simple. Yeah, then the modulo, maybe it's not used so often in everyday life, but in programming, modulo is really important, especially when you need to have the limitation of the, like, let's say that you want to do some, usually if it's random calculus, like random calculus, you want to get some random value, and yeah, so the random value should have the range, let's say, from 0 to 10, for example. Then it means that you can divide random number by 11, and then you can get the modulo, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. And the largest result you can get is 10. Yeah, so you have this limited range of numbers. But we will maybe have more examples a little bit later. I will explain some more precise practical examples where the modulo can be used. Then yeah, for string operators, we have the concatenation, and please note that again, the set strings are not mutable. That means that every time you do the concatenation of the string, then actually a new object, new string is created as a result. So So yeah, it's not like you have the existing one and you enhance it. No, you will have a new variable after that. Sorry, not new variable, new value, new object after that. So you can do the concatenation direct way using the addition sign, concatenation sign. So that's the plus sign. In a similar way, you can use such syntax like inclusion. Yeah, that would be fine as well. So you can do it. Yeah. Then you can have the relational operators to compare the values. Yeah, less than or equal to. So greater than or equal to, equals or not equals. And yeah, so what's the point of these operators? The key point is that they you need to have, obviously you need to have two values, and the thing is that they are logical operators which return true or false. Okay? So they are logical operators. Yeah, so this is the operation, the function, which actually returns true or false. So do you have any questions? Well then, okay, can move on. Yeah, so that would be the example, and in fact, again, these are the operations. Like if we use the relational operations, then at the result of the operation, we also the same as for the subtraction, division, multiplication. We also have the value which is returned out of the operation. The same is here. We have the value true or false, which is returned out of this operation. So, and then we have such a short syntax I also really like to use. We have the question. Yeah, like we can say that we have a question. The question has two answers, true and false. And based on the answer, if the answer is true or the answer is false, then we can return one or another result. Yeah, so it's quite effective syntax, and this is, yeah, actually you can use if else instead, but this is the shorter syntax for instead of using if else, and you want to return the value from, like, let's say you have if else statement, and based on this if else statement, you want to get some kind of value. So like if there's one condition, then the value A is returned, and if there's else condition, then the value B is returned. So the same, you can write a short way. So if condition is like any condition, if it's true, if it returns true, then this particular value will be assigned. If false, then this value will be assigned. So like we have here, we can define the variable, or we can just put it somewhere in the middle of the code. Then yeah, we want to assign something, some kind of text to this triple M, and then we have the let's say the question here. We have the operation which returns true or false, and so this comparison, it returns true or false, and then we check if it's true, then Chen will be assigned to triple M. Otherwise, we have no otherwise here, right? Oh no, otherwise it will, yeah, that's, I would say, maybe a little bit long example, not really effective. I don't really like this, but yeah, actually, why not? Yeah, so if this, yeah, actually, this is the way how we can use if else, but maybe it will be a little bit confusing. If, else, if, and so on. But, yeah, but why not? So basically, it checks if double M is 1.
It looks more like switch.
Yeah, it looks more like switch. And yeah, actually, this is particular example. Quite interesting, I would say. Why not? Yeah, I also use something similar, but I usually put the brackets so to make it more understandable. But actually, this is yeah, why not? Why not? Basically, yeah. So it means that if this is true, then it doesn't go next. If this is false, then it goes to the next one and checks. So if double M is 2, then it returns February, and we don't go next. Else, it checks further, and so on and so on. So at the end, it reaches unknown, so it means that M is not from 1 to 12. But yeah, so that would be, say, quite simple. If we have a simple example, so we have, let's say, system date time. Now let's say year, and so let's assign the year, or maybe what we can do. Oh no, let's do it the following way. So we can say string, maybe a simple example, and then we ask the question. So if the year is, let's say, 2020 question, so if it's true, then we say now is 2020, and then the opposite would be now is not 2020. Yeah, something like this. Bar string, not a string, but or say text or answer or something similar. Basically, whatever we want to have here. And so again, just any question, true, then now is 22 is assigned to answer, else now it's not 2020. So something like this. I can print this answer. Yeah, of course you can write it using the switch or using if else, but it's just simply shorter way. Yeah. So maybe let me show this, and then we can also write it using switch or if else. Where is my program? Here it is. Yeah, so we can see the answer. And if I ask if now is 2021, then it should say that now is, then the answer should have this particular text. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, this is what we define here. The same way we could make it larger. Yeah. So as an alternative, we can write if statement. So that would be that we define the answer as the text. So then we say that if system date year equals 2021, then the answer would be now is 2021, else the answer would be that now is not 2021. And so then we can, I guess that's going to be placed in some place. Okay. So, and yeah, so you can see that it requires more lines of code. Same as for switch. Switch system date now here. So case 2021. Say that the answer is now is 2021. There's, oh, no, hold on. No, that's fine. It's just so, yeah, just I rarely use switch statement, so there should be, so just from the syntax point of view, no minutes. No, the syntax is correct. There's a point here, like, okay, so just simply have a look. And yeah, and default would be it's fine, and then the default would be the answer now is no. No, it's not. So it's 21. Yeah, so yeah, of course, in both cases we spent more lines of code comparing to that to this example. Yeah. So yeah, this is why the syntax may be needed, since it's simply smaller, shorter. Okay. Do you have any questions about this? Okay. Let's move on. So the logical operators. Again, when we work with the Boolean variables, then Boolean values, then we can make the combination of them. We can say, yes, this is from the logic. Yeah, this is from the logic, and so the logical operations which come from the logic theory. Yeah, and the logic theory, there are the rules. For example, if we say condition true and true, this will be true, true or true. This results in true. So like let's say that we have two questions, and then we combine the answers of them. So let's say we want to achieve the situation when two questions, the answers to both questions is true, then we have the operator and in between. Then we expect that both parts will be true. If we are find that one of two parts is true, then we can use OR operator, logical OR. And yeah, so the results will be true and true will result to true. True or true will also result to true. Then true and false will result into false, because when we have and, we expect both sides to be true. And when we have true or false, then we have true as the result, since we want one of two sides to be true. That's why we are fine with this. We say that the result is true. And when we have obviously when we have false or false, then we have false and false and false. We also have false as the result. Yeah, so and this is about the logical operators. We compare two Boolean values, and then we have the result, which is true or false at the end. Okay, and for we have not operator, which simply returns the opposite value. So let's say not true will be false, and not false will be true. Yeah. So and regarding the bitewise logical operators, these are related to the bits. So when we have the byte operations, then we may need to use them, but this is not sure if you will use this. Yeah, so do you have any questions? So these operators and bitewise operations may be used, for example, in cryptography. If you are familiar or you want to do something in that field, you can, and you may need to then use them. But if you don't work with such specific areas, then you may never use them. And yeah, so you have this table, and so pretty much obvious. So based on two values, we can then get the result. Okay. Yeah, and of course, we can then compare these and get true or false. Yeah, the assignment operator means that we assign the value to the variable. Yeah, and so the simple assignment operator for the operator for the variables where we can add something, like if it's the integer, not the integer, I mean the numeric type or the string, then we can use add and assign operator together. This simply means that, and also the same for the other operators, then it means that we use the same value as we have on the left side. We use it on the right side, and we apply the value which is on the right side, which is already on the right side. And so in this case, we say that we divide the same variable by 100. Yeah, in that case, we add VAT amounts to VAT amounts to this variable, and so that will be the same. Okay, and the same is about the other operators. Quite straightforward. Do you have any questions about them? So these are just the shorter ways how you can use these operations. Okay. No questions, we move on. And then yeah, we have the typecasting. So remember that what I said for the reference data types and for the value data types, there is different meaning of the casting. So what does it mean? Simply means that we have two types, or we have the variable, and then to what we want to assign, we want to assign the value to the variable, right? So this is when you use the assignment. And the thing is that the data type of the target variable may be different from the data type of the source variable or the data type of the source value we assign. So in this case, we may have the situation then when we can actually, even if the types are not the same, we can assign the variable, or sorry, we can assign the value, but we may have a situation when the data will be lost. So maybe let's then take a look here. So yeah, so we may use the syntax. There are two differences. If we have the casting which makes sense, for example, we assign integer to double, then in that case, like in this case, we don't need to use this casting syntax, because we don't have the data rules. And yeah, this is, so now we talk about the value data types. So in this case, we won't have the situation when we have the rules of data. But when we have something, then we assign something more specific to something, something less specific, let's say this way, then we may have the data rules, and we may lose the data. Like in this case, when we assign integer to, sorry, we assign double to long, we know that long is less specific type than double, and we may, in this case, we will lose them if we have the decimal digits, then we will lose them in this case. Yeah, that's why we need to use this casting operator to say the compiler that we are fine with this data rules. So that's the point. That's the point here, and this is about value, the casting of value types. For the reference types, the rules are different. We will talk about them in the topic of object-oriented programming. But do you have any questions about data casting in scope of value data types? So quite simple. We may have, say, double or long, and then we want to assign one value type to another variable, which has different type. Yeah, so these are the operators we have. And so the addition, subtraction, and so on. And so the shifting operators, so this is more mathematical, maybe we'll not use them, but mostly we use conditional. Logical operator will definitely, they're used almost everywhere. Assignment operators and arithmetic operators, if you work with the numbers, then they are used. But if sometimes you may have a situation when you don't even work with numbers, and then you mostly use only logical operators and assignment and conditional operators. Okay, do you have any questions about the operators? Okay, if not, then we can move on. And yeah, so manage how to manage the program flow. So the program is not linear. We may have some different conditions where we want to go. So we previously used the conditional, previously described the conditional operator. So the same is about the code. You know, we can go one direction or we can go another direction. It depends, and we can define such directions in our code. Yeah, so to define this direction, we need to have true or false. We need to have the value which is true or false. So it simply means that we check the condition. If condition is true, then we go inside. If condition is not true, it's false, then we check other options. So if there is other option, like the option else, yeah, so this is the other option for the condition, then else statement is executed. If no, we can just simply have if statement without else, then we simply go next. Okay. So yeah, remember this is condition statement, and from the condition statement we only expect true or false, and nothing else. And yeah, so should be something what returns true or false, right? Straight forward. So any questions about else? I'm sure there is lots of things to discuss. Then yeah, the switch statement also the similar alternative to if else statement. Yeah, so just in case we have multiple options for one. Yeah, so what's difference here that we work with one particular value, and then we check the variable, maybe not the value, but the variable, and we check what is the value of this variable, and then we compare this value to what we have, so what we define, and then based on this value, then one condition or another condition is executed. Like in this case, we have gender, and the gender can be M or F, or something else, and so then this character is checked, and then value is checked, and based on this value, we go inside one or another case. And we use break. So break means that it will not go further, because sometimes if we don't use break, then it will execute all the conditions all the statements below. Okay. So any questions about switch statement? And so for example, if we simply want to fall through, then we can, so if you want to have multiple cases, like multiple scenarios for, one scenario for multiple cases, then we can use such syntax, and then you will have like one condition one execution for two cases. And there's also go-to statement, but I suggest not using go-to, since go-to is I would say deprecated by the programmers, but the programmers never liked it, and this is some kind of, I would say, taboo for the programming, because go-to means that you simply jump through the program in not direct way, because normally if we jump through the program, then we use the branches, the branching, if else switch or something similar. We use the methods. So we have this particular direct flow of the program. But if we use go-to, simply means that we jump through the code and without following the programming we have. And go-to is a little bit is usually the usage of go-to is quite confusing, and that's why we try to never use it. So the next one is while, also quite similar to if statement, but sorry, not to if statement, but to the for loop. We will talk about for loop a little bit later, but the thing is that it is the cycle which will be executed until condition is while condition is true, until condition is false. So that means that statements what we have inside will always be executed. So for example, here we have the counter, then the counter will be decremented every time inside this while loop, and then basically what happens, we go here, we check the condition. If condition is true, we go deeper, then not deeper, we go inside, and then this right line is executed, counter is decremented, and it goes back. It checks if statement is true or false. Then if statement is true, it goes inside, does the actions there, and goes again back. If it's true, goes back, and if it's false, then it skips and goes further the program. similar will be do while, but the difference is that for while loop there should be the condition true, so it can be executed at least once. For do while, it will always execute it at least once, and then for the further iterations, it will check the condition if condition is true or false. Yeah. So that's the difference. So any questions about while cycle? I hope you all work with them. We will definitely use them in our practical tasks. So these all are needed for us. Okay. No questions. Then the next one is for loop. For loop has 3 components. So I mean, it has the condition, which not condition, but so yeah, it has the condition. It has the place where we can initialize the variable, which will be used. We will use during this loop. Yeah, so first point is first section is needed for the variable definition and initialization. Then the condition is checked, yeah, and so we initialize. Then we check the condition. If condition is true, execute the statement, go to the expression. Then it goes back to the condition, checks if condition is true, execute the statement, go back to the expression. So expression is executed, again condition is checked, and so then it's again the direction is from here, 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 here until condition is false. So when condition is false, then the cycle is stopped. Yeah? And basically you can play around with these 3 sections as you want. Okay? You can skip initializing the variable, you can define any condition which returns true or false here, and then you can do any expression you want also every time after the iteration is executed. So you can play around as you want, and to define the endless loop for while, that would be while true, right? And for cycle, that would be just simply without providing any directions inside the brackets. Right, so do you have any questions? So good. And then also the similar statement, which is mostly used for the arrays. And so the easiest way how to go through the arrays and to get the values from there is to use for each. Then we simply define the variable, and the variable will store each element of the array. All right. So, any questions about for each statement, for each loop? Okay. No, and then we can actually exit every loop without checking any condition using the break statement. So break means that the loop is, then we will stop the loop. And so the program will go out of the loop every time break statement is executed. So is it clear? Do you have any questions? Yeah, we can use break everywhere inside the loop. Then the loop will be over. continue means that we go to the next iteration of the loop. Okay. So like you are in the current iteration, then it simply means that it will skip the code what we have until the end of the loop, of the section of the loop, and then it will go next. Okay. If there are no questions, let's move on. And then there are so-called labels and goto. So goto is actually what I would like you to ask to not really use, because again you can see that using goto you can actually jump through the program. Okay. So it means that you define the label. So say you define the label, it can be here, it can be also here, anywhere in your code. And then you say goto, and then it will go to this particular place where this label is written. Of course, again, the disadvantage for the programmers is that it will simply jump through the code without any input, because normally the idea of the code is that we go from up to down. Yeah, we go linearly, we execute line by line, then we may have the loops or something similar, and then we go down, 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 down. If we use goto, then we simply jump through the lines of code, and this actually has the conflicts with the concepts of programming. And the main concepts of programming makes the code not really understandable. In some cases, makes the code useless or simply not really understandable. That's why goto statements we try to never use it in our program. The return statement means that we have the method, so and the codes can only be executed inside the methods, and then the method can return the value, or it can not return the value. If it's the void, then the program does not expect from the method to return anything. Yeah, so in such cases, we can simply use return. Then it means that the execution of the method will be finished. Yeah, so basically that would be the same if we go at the end of the method. Yeah? And if we have the returning type of the method, then we must return the value from this method. So that's the idea. Do you have any questions about return statement? Yeah, so quite simple. Go to the end of the method and return the value if it is required. So, okay. Hope these points are pretty much clear for you. If not, let me know. So yeah, then I will share this presentation with you. If you have any questions from here, please let me know. We can discuss them during the other sessions, during the next sessions. So just if something is not clear for you regarding the concepts, some concepts of the programming and object-oriented programming and generic data types, yeah, we'll use them a little bit later. Then, yeah, we will go through these concepts later. Okay. So, any questions about this particular presentation? Okay. If not, then you can finally go to the practical task. So you can see that I shared the practical tasks with you. So, and then I would like you to to try to complete the first exercise, the first activity.
Excuse me, I wanted to ask, maybe we can take another break
Yes, sure.
for
Yeah,
10 minutes.
yeah,
Mhm.
sure. But yeah, so yeah, the idea is that this task will be, I mean, you will do it, and so this will be individual task. So you will do it, and then we will check it. But yes, so maybe let's have 10 minutes break. So meanwhile, you can open and prepare your workstations, and then you can, yeah, let's maybe make it 10 minutes. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so Maria is asking okay, Maria is asking to share the presentation. Okay, so let me then share this presentation with you. Guess okay, I will share it as maybe I'll share it as PowerPoint since there are some comments. You can also take a look on them if you want. So I will put them under notes and resources. Let me put them there. Yeah, so I will upload. So yeah, uploaded the presentation under notes and resources. Yeah, so Simari has some questions, so you can ask them. I guess so if anyone else There's the questions, then you can ask. So yeah, which task to do? Yeah, the first task, activity 1. So open activity 1, and so this would be this player profile task. Let's start with this one. So the idea would be that yes, here you can create a class library. So yeah, so how to create class library? You can go to, okay, you need to create a project. Create new project, and then here you can find class library. Yeah. So you can find class library, then you can create it. So when you create it, then from there, then yeah, I need to implement. Or maybe I can start this. Start together, and then you will develop it by yourself. And so that's me. So it says that I should name it as activity 1. So let's name it as activity 1. So then it says that I need to delete the existing class 1. So let's delete it. And then we need to add player profile CS class. So then we go to station here. We need to go to add existing item. Then we can add the class run. This is oh, so that was from project. A moment. That was a moment. Was it under the project? Yeah, under the project. Then here. Moment. Add new item. Add new item. Oh, sorry, hold on. Sorry, add existing item. So yeah, existing item. Missed it. And so then we go to the extracted archive. So that was here. I have it. I go to the code class, and then we need to select player profile. Player profile. Then this class will be inside here. Yeah. So then the task is that you need to use this class, this file, and then you need to implement compute age method. This one, this one. So and yeah, so this is the helper method, and it's designed to compute the age of the player based on the date of birth. So you don't need to, you can't use, please don't use date time class for the system class. So yeah, then you just simply need to calculate the age. So you have current date, and then based on this current date, you need to calculate the age. Okay, so do you have any questions about the task? Okay, so please proceed with this task. Don't no rush. So you can. So let's complete then this task, and then you can also. So if you finish this task, you can also do the second activity as well. So that will be. Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I think there was a necessity add existing item command to add the existing player profile from week 1 activity code files, but I don't have it on my computer, or
Sorry, which
I
one?
don't understand.
Sorry,
So if I open the correct folder, I'm not sure. It's for the project activity 1, use add existing item command to add the existing player profile CS file from week 1 activity code files. Or I open the wrong.
yeah.
It's wrong
Yes.
material, yeah?
So this one. So you have the code files.
Uh,
So I guess you should, at least I sent you the archive of this folder.
yeah.
So it should be, so have activities. A moment, let me open the archive. So you have these activities, then you have
Yeah,
the code
yeah.
files, and then you have these classes here. So here you have player profile.
Ah,
You
okay.
should select this one.
So it's correct, just it will answer. Oh, open. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, so now you can proceed with the task. I will be here in case you have any questions.
Sorry,
Yeah.
do we need to submit these questions right now, or we have some time for this for
No,
tomorrow?
no, 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 no. You can submit until the next session. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Because
so
my
no, no,
result
no,
is
no.
still waiting
Yeah,
for.
no rush, no rush. Yeah, so you
Okay, thank you.
can keep your tempo, and then on Monday we'll check the solutions then. So now I will be here, so you can ask the questions if you have. Yeah. Let's see the question from Alina. Okay. Visual Studio is asking to sign someone with the account. Okay, had a trial. A trial. Yeah. So, which let me check which account do I use. Okay, so I use my working account. Maybe you can try create one, or I'm not sure if you can use your GitHub account. Maybe try. Can I create one or use GitHub? I guess maybe you use a different edition. Yeah, you can try to use that, but so maybe let me quickly share the screen. So I guess if you use Visual Studio Community, then I guess it should be free at least. At least I guess it says that it's free. Yeah, it's free IDE. So I guess Visual Studio should be free. Maybe you use different version. No, sorry, not version, but different Visual Studio. Yeah, I guess we can say that it's version. Yeah, so let me try. Again, it's no rush, no hurry. So I'll try. Because I guess Visual Studio is now free. At least should be free.
Hello, I have an issue. I think it might be related with the that I haven't downloaded something what I need.
What kind of issue?
The issue is with when I want to add this file that about this project file, yeah, what we understood that it exists on my computer, but the problem is I choose file, add existing project, right?
So,
And when I open the folder,
so
I don't see those files with PS at all.
I mean, you need to extract these files from the zip archive.
No, I one moment. I guess I extracted them, but I will just check. I think it's I have a not zip folder, but I have like normal folder.
Okay, so you need to navigate to this folder. Then.
Yeah, and
For
it's
me the same
empty.
problem.
Oh, thank you, Susanna. Thank God. I thought my files just ghosted.
The same thing. I don't
Yeah,
know, so I'll
it's
try
just
check. Yes.
empty. But when I check, I actually see that there is these files and I can open them. But with Visual Studio, it shows me no files. Yeah.
So, I mean, you use the same approach. You go to the project, add existing item. So then you navigate to the folder.
Pagaway.
So maybe check what kind of extensions you expect.
Um, Maybe I can share my screen.
Yeah.
That is great.
I can
Да.
share your screen.
Мгм. Да. Да. Okay. I will just. So you see now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See.
So I deleted the class one as was requested. So basically, what I'm going to do is like file that.
No. You need to go to
No.
project.
Here.
Project. No. You have the project option on the top. Sorry, on the top. You have toolbar. No. What? I mean, when you
Oh, okay.
on the website, yeah, on the top.
I just used the Mac before, and Mac version differs, and now I switched to Windows. Hope it
No, it's
will be
fine.
easier. But for now,
No,
it's just yeah.
no. I mean,
Okay.
go top. You have to projects on the
Okay.
So you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
project
I
option
think
here.
I understood.
Yeah, and
One
here you
moment.
have an existing item.
Da. Okay. Add.
No, don't rush.
I don't press anything. Yeah.
No. Okay. Yeah.
Cancel.
Go to add existing.
New item.
No.
Existing.
This one.
Existing.
This
Yeah.
one. Yeah. This one.
Yeah. Let's. It
And
should
here.
be one moment. Activities. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that was
So
solution. Yeah.
yeah. Here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Good.
I hope it will show up, right?
Yeah. So it is on the right side now. Yeah.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I found the same situation, but only there we need to this activity should be chosen, but without this, it is not showing in this project at existing item. So there's one point for me too.
Okay.
Okay, that's clear now. Thank you.
Good. Okay, a question from Alina. Yeah, it had 30 days trial, but it looks like you had maybe wrong Visual Studio, because Visual Studio should be for free. So maybe you downloaded the wrong one. So maybe try to download it again. I had Enterprise. Then yeah, of course, I think Enterprise will. Yeah, the free one is Community. That's that's the point when you download Visual Studio. Then if you use Enterprise version, then it may require some licenses. Yeah. Of course, if you use Enterprise, then it will not be for free. Okay, so do you have any questions? So maybe if not, then yeah, I think we will not manage to go through. Oh, yeah, the questions.
No, I was just wondering, is there like trick in this exercise, or everything's supposed to be super smooth?
No, I mean that should be smooth. So you need to do the
Ah.
calculation. You need to do the calculations and just expect the right result in the end. So that's also the training task. It's not like you.
Okay.
So yeah, then
I wanted to ask till the Monday we have to do this 1.0 or 1.12 about
so
all this
let me
about Zodiac as well, or activity 1.0 only.
try these two. So I guess
Okay.
that would be fine until. And of
Thank you.
course, you can cooperate with each other. That's not like the competition to run who is better. So you can also cooperate with other members. That would be fine as well.
I'm sorry, I feel awkward asking this, but was this exercise made this year?
Deadline is Monday.
It's just the test is wrong because the test is wrong, I think.
So, I mean,
because it's checking if people are 27 that are born in 1990. Maybe I'm just doing something wrong, but I think the test has wrong data. Is that possible?
I mean, it checks the current date. So you see, you have the current date, the instance of current date at the beginning.
The
So
test part, the tests, is it correct? Later in the solution, you're supposed to launch a test.
Yeah. You need to launch tests, so you can. So that's the unit test. So there are the unit tests which execute and then check the solution.
Yes, and I'm thinking, could it be correct that it is outdated, that unit test?
It should not be outdated, since as you can see it, so it should normally check the current date. So you should not hard code. I assume that you hard coded the year, the date. So you should.
I didn't hard code. Okay, I'll just check a bit more. I'm confused.
No, I mean that's fine. That's fine. You can share the code, and then we'll discuss this on Monday. Then yeah. So just so yeah, we'll go through the solution. Yeah, and remember, you don't need to hard code like this. So don't need to use 2021 or something like, or the current date. The current date will be checked by the system. Yeah, so the date type is it returns you the current date. But yeah, so don't rush. Keep your tempo. Then on Monday we will check. Only one O and one. And we'll then check the solutions on Monday. Yeah. Okay. You can also share. You can share your code with me. So then I will take a look on the solutions. Okay. So yeah, then have a nice evening today. Have a nice Friday, and have a nice weekend. And meet you on Monday. Then. Thank you, and bye.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.